Hi guys, this is Ruan from hitechnovation.com, and in this tutorial we're going to be doing a professional text logo in Photoshop CS6, and we're going to add a mirror effect to the bottom of it, as you can see over here. Okay, so let's get started. First thing, create a new document, file, new, and depending on where you're going to be using this logo, select your size that you want to have. I'm just making a desktop background over here, so I'm setting it to my normal screen resolution, which is 1366 by 768 pixels. But I mean, if it's for a website banner or even a YouTube video background, then do it HD 1080 by 720 or whatever settings you normally use. Do it on a white background and leave all the other settings as is. Press on OK. Now we've got our background canvas over here. I normally first go and unlock the background. It's really not necessary to do it now, but as we're going to add a gradient color to this background layer later on, we're going to have to do it anyway, so I'll just get that out of the way. So double click on the lock, click on OK, or just drag down the lock to the taskbar over here, and you've got your layer unlocked. First thing, let's do our text. Now for displaying large text, I normally use Helvetica World. It's just a personal preference for displaying large text. But I mean, obviously you can you have your own preferences and select any text font that you want. I'm gonna do it on bold. It just looks better. Your font size, well, guys, really go and play around. I've just been doing this for a few times, and I know that setting mine on 90 and the length of my text, it just fits, well, it fits to my liking onto my canvas. So just play around with the sizes and the length of your text and see what works for you. Next, set your your text color. I'm going to use a black color, as this is going to be on a grayish gradient color later on. So I prefer using black. Right, just click on there, and then we just type our text that we're going to be using. Now I'm just going to make a little variation to the text over here, just to add a little bit of excitement to the things. Looking for a font a little bit slimmer than that. Personally, I like to use the Helvetica font family. So let's see, Helvetica New LT.com looks quite good. So that's basically just what I've done, is just narrowed or made it a little slimmer just to add some spice to it. Okay, now you want to move your text to more or less the center of your document. It really doesn't have to be perfect. Just move it around as you please and as you want to. Next thing you want to do is we want to duplicate that layer. So right click on it, make a duplicate layer, on OK. Then you want to right click on the copy you just created. This time select rasterize type. So this is basically just converted the text layer into a rasterize type layer. It's all just so that we can add some effects to the layer. As you know, on a text layer, you cannot really add too many effects to it. Okay, so having that done now, next thing you want to do is select your magic wand tool. Now you want to be looking at all the white spaces that are enclosed within letters, like typically your A's and your O's and your D's and your B's and whatever. Okay, and you want to hold down your shift key and select all of those areas. So I only have the O's and the A here. So select all those areas that are enclosed. Okay, after you've selected those, go to select, what's the select, modify, then you want to expand those selections by 2 pixels. So all of this is basically done, is just expanded the selection into the letters a little bit. Next we want to fill those areas we've selected, so click on your paint bucket tool. Make sure your background or your foreground color is still set on the same color as your text, and just click on those, holding down your shift key, and select all of those and fill those selected areas. Your selection tool, click away, Control D or Command D on a Mac, deselect. So this is what we've got so far. Next thing we want to do is just we're going to duplicate that layer twice. So right click on it, duplicate layer, go to right click on it, duplicate layer again, so that you have 3 copies of the rasterized layer type. Okay, make sure your top one is selected now, then go to image and adjustments, then hue and saturation over there. Don't worry really, don't think too much about hue or saturation. We are only interested in the lightness. Set your lightness to around 40. Click on OK. So it's just made it a little bit lighter and not pitch black as all the others. You see, if you deselect it, you'll still see the bottom black layers. So now, as that layer is selected, you want to drag that layer to the middle of the other two. So in the end, it will be the middle layer of the 3. Then you want to select the bottom one and go to, what is it, what we're going to do, filter, this time filter, blur, and then Gaussian blur. Now I've played around as I've said, and I found that 35 pixels works fine for me, but I'm going to really play around with the sliding slider over here and see what works for you, what doesn't work for you. I've chosen 35, click on OK, and then we want to just lower the opacity a little to around 80, more or less like that. Okay, so basically we've got our logo done now. Let's just make things a little bit interesting, and we're going to add some lines in our text over here. So for that, select the top layer, then select your rectangular marquee tool. Now what you want to do is we're going to make some selections with your marquee tool, which is basically just lines that will go through your text. And we're going to select multiple ones. So make it interesting, guys. Make it different sizes, different lengths, different widths or thicknesses, and just make it interesting. So I'm going to do my first one. I'm going to do it a thickish one, more or less like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. Make it interesting. Really doesn't have to be. I just remember a tip I can give you is just for letters like H's and G's and E's, with the horizontal, you don't want to take that part out, because what we're going to do is just delete these selections we're making. So you want to make sure that you don't select those horizontal lines in your selections, as you don't want to delete that and then it's just not going to look good. Believe me, I've done it a few times. It doesn't look any good. Just hold down your shift key so that you can make another selection. This time it's going to be a little bit slimmer. Let's make it like that. Make the next one over there. Remember to hold down your shift, guys, otherwise you're going to lose your selections. There's going to be a little thicker one again, like that. You see, there I've done it now, so I'm just going to go back a step, hold down my shift key again, and then make another selection. Thinner one like that. Then our last one, I'm going to make a little bit thicker, again, like that. Okay, with your selections then made, you want to go to, what is it, select, modify, and this time we want to contract, and contract those by 1 pixels. Okay, there we go. And with your top layer still selected, just press the delete key. Deselect, Control D or Command D, and that's what we've done now. So basically what we've done now is just deleted those selected areas so that you actually see the middle layer. Those that gray area, if you take the top layer away, is this layer over here. So you just deleted the black of the top layer. See what I've done? Okay, so it just looks a little bit interesting, and yeah, adding some spice to things. Okay, so our logo is basically done. All we need to do now is do the mirror effect to it. Okay, so let's do that. Select your first two layers by holding down your shift key, and then we want to duplicate those two layers so that we have duplicate copies of the two layers you just selected. Then go to Edit, Transform, and then go to down to Flip Vertical. Make sure your selection tool is selected, then hold down your shift key and just drag that selections down. Now guys, line up your letters with your O's and your C's and your D's and all of that, and not the others. You still want to see that gap, because if you're going to not see that gap, you're going to have your O's and C's and D's overlapped, as you can see over here. So do the solid ones. Line the solid ones up instead, like that. Okay, so next select your top layer, and what we're going to do now is select the bottom half of this mirror copies that we've created. We're going to select the bottom half. So select your rectangular marquee tool, and then more or less the bottom half of your text. Make a selection, and yeah, more or less like that. Then you just go right click and then feather. Set your feather to around 30 pixels, like that. So just rounded that selection over there. And with your top layer still selected, all you simply do is press delete and select your second layer, press delete. Now we've got a mirror effect, but as you can see, it still looks a bit obvious. Deselect, as you can see, just click away. It still looks a bit too dark, too obvious, so we just want to lower the opacity of those two layers. I'm going to lower it quite a bit down to around 30, like that. So there you've got it. There you've got your logo designed, and you've got your mirror effect added to it. Next, what we want to do, final step, is just do the gradient on the background layer. So make sure your background layer is selected. Then I'm gonna do a white, well, offish white actually. Offish white, not quite white. To a light gray color. More or less like that. There we go. And now you want to select your gradient tool, which is the same together with your paint bucket. Just hold down and select your gradient tool and make your selection. Make sure your background layer is selected over here. Make a selection from more or less up there and drag it all the way down and release. So there we go. Then we've got our gradient added to the things. And we've got our logo as well as our mirror effect. That's it guys for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something, and hopefully you can go on and create your own professional looking text logos using Photoshop CS6. For any more tutorials like this, please go to our either our website hightechnovation.com, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is just High Tech Novation. And yes, looking forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Cheers.